can't control what you, let's put it out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's call to order. Thank you very much. First order of business is to approve tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion? So move in a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Second item is approval of minutes from February 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. On the public agenda, no scheduled items. But all agenda items, if anyone here would like to speak prior to the meeting, may speak at this point in time. Anybody? Okay. If not, JB, updates, issues, and
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. A couple items coming up, fairly maybe controversial. Number one, we can approve the operating agreement for the MAC. As you know, the Park Elementary is now the shelter, the homeless shelter, and put together a board. The board is now 7 people, including the mayor, that will operate the MAC. The city will not operate. This board will operate multi-agency center. They take over April 1st from Humankind operating the shelter. Then hopefully they'll hire a CEO pretty quick and get everything, all the agencies involved. So get everybody involved so we can have a plan, a good plan to solve the homeless issue. Get people from homeless to at the shelter or congregate housing, to non-congregate housing, to more permanent housing, affordable housing. So that's the plan, and they'll put it together, and so we'll have the operating agreement for us tomorrow. Second thing is a CID for Old Town. So it's proposed a 2% tax in the Old Town district and a $15 parking fee per month for non-residents and retail. So that's like apartments, offices, things like that. So that would generate enough money for the maintenance of parking. As opposed to having car park, manage that, the parking there, having parking meters in Old Town. Of course, if you do that, car parks can have to make a profit on that too. So it will cost us substantially more for people to park there. So 2% tax, in my opinion, on a restaurant is not much. You shop at Greenwich Place, there's a tax on there, and I bet you don't even realize it's on there. Third thing is Crown Uptown. You found any fans of Crown Uptown here? No, there is in College Hill, believe me. So the owner wants to increase the occupancy, over double it. That got turned down by city council, 7-0. He threatened to demolish it if he didn't get the increase. So he went to MAPD, and he wants a permit to demolish. So there is a city council can put a 180-day stay on that to hopefully give you more options, what might be used for. So we'll vote on that 180-day stay tomorrow. So last thing is, this is our only meeting at this location. We were here for years with Brian, with Dad, great place. Next meeting will be at the Westlink Library. So should be fun. Yeah. And we will have a district breakfast Saturday before it opens on Monday, the 20.
It opens on Monday the 24th.
Monday,
Breakfast is
24th.
on the 26th.
Breakfast on 20th. Yeah. The breakfast is on the 22nd. On Saturday, the 22nd, 9 a.m. My wife threatened to fix an egg casserole and oatmeal casserole. So hope that happens. And we'll have a nice breakfast. So invite you to be the first chance you'll be able to see it. They'll give tours of the library, and so looking forward to that. It looks amazing on the pictures. So hopefully Worked out well. Any questions for me? No? Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the agenda, it's indicated that appointee Michael Green will report on the airport advisory board. And now,
As Dave said, I'm Mike Green, been on the Airport Advisory Board for, well, this will be a year this month. The board is comprised of I should have a PowerPoint. Is it up? I'll be back next month.
No,
Oh, no, because it's all based on,
he did say it.
You just say it's been delayed.
yeah, this is all contingent on the. Yeah, I think it said what, Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday?
If we don't find that, Mike, maybe we just give an overview of how it works, what it does.
Well, like I said, I've been on the advisory board now for just a year this month. The board is comprised of 13 members. The county commissioners and city council members each appoint one member, which gives you an even number. And then the Wichita Regional Economic Area or REAP appoints one person to give you an odd number so that you have a functioning board when you don't have a tie. We are an advisory board with really no official authority, and we are apprised of what is happening at the airport on a monthly basis. And now for the rest of the report that was going to kind of cover what actually happens at the airport.
This one was the dad flag presentation.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Sorry, guys.
She's got a good she is, she can make it happen.
Which back in Longwell's and Fry's days, we didn't have this kind of technology.
No.
No, I mean, I think we had.
No, we did.
Nothing?
No, we did those.
Okay, then that was after our,
After you're
I
done.
think I was with you for only about, what, 3 or 4 months?
We had chalk and slate.
Yeah.
Blackboards.
Etch a sketch. So. Yeah. So starting off, the operations division is responsible for inspecting and recording all of the airfield pavement and painted surfaces. As you can see, there is a lot of area to inspect on a daily basis. They are responsible on a daily basis to ensure all runway lighted signs and runway lights are operating. And they also are responsible in keeping wildlife away from not only the runways, but also birds flying in the air. Planes and wildlife do not coexist well together. And as you can see in this picture, a couple of you've got some geese, and we got looks like maybe a raccoon or something trying to climb over the fence. And one of the items on this was talking about NOTAMs or notice to airmen. The picture on the lower right is what would be considered a NOTAM or notice to airmen, because it's something that is not usually associated with the flying, something that's weird or different, either in the air or on the ground. And they issued approximately 2,000 of those NOTAMs just in 1 year. Buildings and utilities, the airport is a huge facility that requires regular maintenance and cleaning. As you can see, they have over 100,000 square feet to clean and maintain on a daily basis. If you've been out to the airport, you've seen how nice and clean and pristine it is. They know how to maintain the property, unlike the schools. This team also goes out and maintains all the lighted signs and runway lights. And if that's not enough, they look after the automated gates, the emergency generators, passenger bridges, and baggage conveyors. Just a few examples of what you see behind the scenes, but also what's you can see in front of where the general public can be. The airport police and fire, also known as APF, are trained as both firemen and policemen. Their training is more intense and involved than if you were going to be just one or the other. On any given day, they can be called upon to issue parking tickets, cite drivers for moving violations, board a plane to attend a passenger in need of assistance, or putting out a fire on a plane's wheels that may have locked up. They also handle something as mundane as lost personal property. In this one, the upper left hand, that's not a plane that's in distress. That's actually an honor flight of veterans who have been given a free trip to Washington, D.C. And upon their return, the airport fire department comes out and washes the plane and welcomes them back. And then in the lower right that's just a training exercise that didn't really happen out at the airport. Nobody was injured. Grounds and facilities, this division is responsible for maintaining the grounds and paved surfaces of both airports, not only Eisenhower, but Jabbar, which is out on Webb Road, north of K96. You think going out and mowing your yard is a weekly ordeal. These folks go out and mow over 1,000 acres on a weekly basis. They are responsible for making sure all painted surfaces are up to FAA standards and also repair or oversee the repair of paved surfaces. They also keep all of the airport vehicles in good running order. Technology is great when it works, but it can be a real pain when you need it and it's not working. This team makes sure all technology works for not only the airport employees, but also the flying passengers waiting for their flight to take off. They also are responsible for working with the various tenants in the terminal buildings, from departures and arrival monitors, and to us having Wi-Fi while waiting for our flights. These folks make things happen. And if you've ever seen any IT behind the scenes, it looks nightmarish. I'm glad they know what they're doing, because it looks rather confusing up there. The pandemic hit everyone hard, from businesses to schools and to the flying community. Numbers are coming back, and the airport is seeing greater growth in the number of passengers flying in and out of this airport. This concludes my presentation. This is a picture of the baggage area. Well, I'm going to go grab my bag and head home. Thank you.
You can stay.
Any questions for Michael?
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank you,
you.
Mike.
All right, we'll begin our staff reports, and first up tonight is Police Officer Williams.
Hello, I am Officer Williams, with Wichita Police Department. I run these 15 and 16. That's over by roughly Central and West Street and Central and 235. So I'm in that area. One of the big things that we have coming up that we're getting ready for right now is our Second Chance Thursday. I had handed out, I know a lot of people have a flyer, but that's going to be on March 13th, on a Thursday, of course, from 9 to 4 p.m. Basically, when we're there, we're going to be taking care of traffic warrants, any kind of warrants that come up through MABCD, and we'll be able to make those back in the pit, either payable fines or you can go back to court. That's also to help people so that if they are driving or whatnot, they don't have to worry about those small warrants that might get them in trouble. So with that, we'll also have the Wichita Municipal Court who'll be taking payments, and we'll also have the Kansas DMV, and they'll be working with people to get their driver's license back. So hopefully, I know every single time we go, we have people who get their driver's license back, and I mean, it's like the greatest thing ever because they haven't had it in years. Let's see. And like I said, that's gonna be on March 13th of this year, 9 AM to 4 PM. One of the other big things that we did just recently last week, I believe it was on Tuesday, we went and worked with MABCD and Fire, which has been a great combo of getting stuff done lately. They're the same, it was all the same groups that basically had gone to the Regency Hotel to be able to get some of the rooms shut down, and then also over at the Economy Inn. This time we went over to Riverside Hospital because we were having issues with homeless breaking into the building, stealing stuff or breaking into the building and, you know, damaging copper. Can't believe it was all them, but you know, that's what was told us. So we went over there, we finally got everything boarded up so that there's no more access to it. And we'll monitor it daily to make sure that nobody breaks into it. But other than that, does anyone have any questions? Going once? Go twice.
But did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Battalion Chief McBee. Welcome, sir.
I'll stand in for Chief Jones because he had foot work on him. Don't know when he's gonna be back. Just some quick numbers. February, 4,684 alarms to the Wichita Fire Department responded to in the month of February. DAB 5 did not have any structure fires during that time. But FIU responded to 21 from January 20th just to February 19th, and all those 21 scenes put together, the damage estimate is over $526,000. That's just January into February. We've got a lot of training going on. We've had over 1,871 total hours of documented company training going on. Multi-agency training, 51 hours. I know what everybody wants to hear. The big thing for us right now is what the time change is March 9th. Change batteries in your smoke detector, please. You do that every time we change the time, you'll get 6 months between the two, which is perfect. Any questions? No?
Good job.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, it's easy. Thank you.
Tracy, I'm sure you have some exciting things to share with us, as always.
My name is Tracy Partridge. I'm the manager of the Westlake Branch Library, and I am happy to be here as always. I'm a little bit more tired than normal because we actually closed the Westlake Branch temporary site on Saturday. And then Saturday night, I stayed late packing, and Sunday, I packed all day with several other staff members and volunteers. And then today, we actually had movers start moving our 40,000 materials to our remodeled site. So now we get to interfile 3 different collections. So it's going to be a very exciting experience that I think that all of you want to hear deeply about. So the main things to know about the Westlake Branch remodel, our temporary site is no longer open. We are incredibly ambitious people. So we said that we are going to start offering drive-through service for Holtz pickup on Wednesday of this week, because we do not want our customers to be without their reading materials. That is something that's incredibly important to us. Customers will actually start returning their materials at the Westlake Branch Library on Wednesday as well. And we will get to learn how to use an incredibly big check-in machine. It's very impressive. When we reopen on the 24th, you've got to come in and see it because you will be astounded by its size and how it functions. One thing that's exciting is that the DAB breakfast on March 22nd is actually going to occur at the Westlake Branch. And people who come to it will actually get a sneak peek of all of these fabulous things that you can expect when we open on March 24th. Now, we are not the only library that's reopening after a remodel in March. Our Angela Northeast Library is also reopening after a remodel. We don't do things like in small amounts at the library. We decide, oh, let's do it all at once. The Angela Library, it's exciting as well. One of the things that's gonna happen when it reopens on March 17th is its hours are going to increase. The reason why is because the Rockwell Branch Library is actually closing on March 16th to do its next phase of remodel. It's not going to reopen until actually fall, possibly at the end of fall. So, right now, while we are offering drive-through services starting Wednesday, our hours will be Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturday, 1 to 5. When we reopen the Westlake branch on March 24th, our hours will return to Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8, Friday and Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sunday, 1 to 5. The Angela Northeast Library, when their hours increase when they reopen on the 17th. They will be Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8, Friday and Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sunday, 1 to 5. So those are like some of the things that are happening with construction and remodeling at the library. After we are done with all of our projects, you're gonna need to go on a little trip and visit every single one so you can see how everything has changed. Another thing that I wanted to mention is March is the time that we are doing actually our big read, where we try and get everybody in the community to read the same book and talk about it, because talking about literature is one of the ways that we can learn and grow. And this year, the book is actually titled Sitting Pretty, The View from My Ordinary Resilient Disabled Body by Rebecca Taussig. It is actually going to have a grand opening, kickoff party, grand opening kickoff party, I'm getting things mixed up. A kickoff party at 6:30 p.m. on Friday, March 14th at Advanced Learning Library. One cool thing about those kickoff parties is they actually hand out free copies of the book. So you don't have to buy your own, just come to the activity and then you will get one. It will be great. That program is actually sponsored by the library, Envision, Kansas Leadership Center, and Sedgwick County Department of Aging and Disabilities. They're the ones that are sponsoring this year's Big Read. And that program will actually run March 14th through April 26th. Another thing that I want to mention, we had set to start a year-long series honoring Black culture with a presentation by Dr. Latasha Kelly. Unfortunately, it was rescheduled due to weather. So it has been rescheduled to Wednesday, March 12th at 6 at the Advanced Learning Library. And the whole purpose is to celebrate Black culture, history, and experience. And we're very excited about it. And then the final thing, anybody have children or grandchildren? Okay, a lot of things are happening for spring break week, March 14th through 22nd. I'm not going to list all of them because everybody wants me to stop speaking. And you can go to our library's website at wichitalibrary.org/events and you can get the complete list and find all sorts of fun, free things that you can do with your children or grandchildren. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you still having Rebecca Taussig here on April 12th? Is she gonna actually be here? I saw it on the website, for like a author deal, so is she coming?
And that is a wonderful question. And I honestly cannot say for certain. I would have to check the website. I think that if you have seen it, then we would. It's not unusual for us to actually have the author as a Big Read speaker. If they are alive, sometimes like our Big Read programs, they are not.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I'll do is I'll check and then I'll email you.
That's great. Our book club just finished the book and discussed it last week, and so it was, we're discussing if some of us might try and come that night, so.
Absolutely. We would love it if you would come. Like, it would make our days, like, seriously, it's awesome. We love to hear it when like when people are coming to our activities, because that's what we're all about, come to our stuff. Any other questions?
What's your favorite thing about the remodel?
What's my favorite thing about the remodel, like the finished project? What I tell people that I really like about the building is that there's a lot more windows. Before the Westlake branch honestly was very dark. I love the Westlake branch library because it was my library as a child. And then being the manager of it, that's really cool. But it was very dark. Now there are a lot of windows. So there's so much light coming in, and then there's so much color. Like it is, before it was brown and gold. okay? And I like brown and gold, but I also like pink and magenta and green and orange and all of these fabulous colors that they're bringing into the space. You shouldn't have asked me that question because I have more.
Okay.
So those are like the things like visually that I like, but there are so many neat features that I'm looking forward to. Our children's room was actually probably tripled in size. And we have an outdoor play space for kids. We are not unfortunately gonna have the exciting thing that we have purchased for that outdoor play space for kids. When we reopen on the 24th, that will be something to look forward to. But we also have like a lot of interactive activities for people that we haven't had before. We have study rooms, collaboration rooms, conference rooms. It is like a huge change, like a huge change. Has anybody, like, how many have you have been to the library, the Wichita, the Westlake branch? Okay. It is a very different experience. And so we're really excited for that. Okay.
Good.
And then all of you can tell me what your favorite thing is when you come on March 22nd to the Dab Breakfast, right? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Next up will be Director Davidson with the Park and Recreation Department report. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, everyone, Reggie Davidson, elsewhere. So, we're getting prepared, it's springtime and everyone's getting outdoors and enjoying a lot of the activities and things that we have coming up. So our summer discovery program is, getting ready to start, which is our summer camp program that we have at 3 of our camp locations. It's, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We also offer a multi-child discount for those who have more than one child that's participating in the program. Our spring evolve guide is just released, so it has all of our activities coming up for the spring, as well as preparing for the summer. We're kicking off our new year for our City Crew program, which is a kids club that's a combination between police, fire, library, and Parks and Rec. We have free activities throughout the year to spotlight different facilities throughout the city that we have that we offer for programming. So that actually can be located on our site with all our activities that we have coming up that you can participate in. Again, it's free for the family to participate in. Another big thing that's happening right now that we're going into our Miracle League programming, which is our program that we have for individuals with cognitive or physical disabilities, where everyone has an opportunity to play, everyone has an opportunity to enjoy the sport itself. And we're getting ready to kick off right now with our spring kickball league that's going to be taking place, and registration for that is opening. And we're also always looking for buddies to come out and to participate in the program to help assist with those athletes are in the Miracle League. Next up, we're getting ready for our golf season. It's gearing up. The courses were live and up and going this past weekend. Had some record numbers that was there for our courses. Auburn Hills that is here getting ready for some new improvements and things that we're doing there on site. We're getting ready to make some improvements to the clubhouse itself here, doing some new carpet there and speakers, as well as blinds, as well as doing some outdoor seating area there on site that we can have an overflow area for the clubhouse to fill. It can actually spill out to the area outside of the golf course there. Also looking at doing some works to the bunkers there on site, putting out some new Bermuda grass on the fairways as well to improve play for everyone that's coming out here forward. And then next up is our adult sports league that are happening right now that we're getting ready to start as well. So we actually have sand volleyball that's coming up, our slow pitch softball, our 2-man golf league that's coming up, as well as our kickball. So a lot of activities happening, getting ready for the weather turning a whole lot nicer and getting people out to participate. And last, our big event that we're doing is for the NCAA tournament that's coming up, having our Fun Fest out at Napster Park. So we're really excited about that. We partnered with K-Witch here locally. We're working with Odyssey, also working with ESPN Radio. Have 6 different food trucks that's going to be there on site, activating the space on that area for people to come out and view the actual games on the monitor there. And then having bounce houses and activities for the entire time. So we'll have activities from Thursday through Saturday. Park will be activated from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So looking forward to that. And partnering with K-Witch, one of the exciting things we're doing with that is once we actually do the announcement for the teams that's going to be coming to Wichita, we're partnering with their sister stations in those communities to announce that the the Fun Fest is gonna be happening here at Fun Fest, so people will know when they're leaving their cities where to come and be able to enjoy the activities at the park. So we'll be hosting all of the pep rallies there for the different teams that are on site, and then also watching the game on the monitor as well. And do you guys have any questions?
Thank you very much. Next is Gary Danson, Public Works and Utilities Department.
Thank you. Good evening. Gary Jansen, Public Works and Utilities. I haven't had a chance to be at this DAB for a while, so I'm happy to be here tonight. I've got 2 items. I mostly was on the agenda to talk about a drought update, which I'll do next, but since staff knew I was gonna be here, I'm gonna give you an update on the District 5 project. So I'm gonna hit through these pretty fast. If you got any questions, let me know. Proc Wetlands Park, we're continuing work on the boardwalk extension and duck line wildlife viewing area is ongoing. That's estimated to be completed by this summer. The second part of that is the playground construction. We've got a contractor on board to build the open air shelter and interpreted playground. This grant is a little bit unknown at this point. Like a lot of the grants we're currently working with, we're waiting to hear from the state. We're out on that funding before we can move forward. Hopefully we hear from that on. Hopefully we hear on that soon. There's 2 parts to a project on 135th Street. The first one I'll talk about is 135th Street and Central signalization. The next project I'll talk about in a moment is improving 135th Street from Central to 13th. Because Central is already improved and it does meet warrants for traffic signal, we're moving forward with that traffic signal now. We hope to have that installed by this summer. Long lead time and traffic signal equipment is the main thing we wait on, but as soon as we get that equipment in, we'll have that installed. Country Acres Dog Park, for the most part, is complete. We need some time for the grass to grow in so that we can get that established. Doesn't help that we're still in this drought, but we're doing all we can to make that work. I think most everything is done except for the public art that'll be installed in April and May. So hopefully that'll be usable for everybody by this summer. Pavement preservation program, you've heard us talk a lot about over time. There's a good link on our website to that program. There's an interactive map. And as we head into the spring of 2025, and we'll start taking off on more work, just a little bit of work left over from 2024. I'm not going to hit on a lot of that. One of the main focuses is Tyler from Central to north of 13th that will be patching and putting a new surface on. Some of the work that you'll see on what we do on the main roads that were resurfaced this year will go in the following year and we put a preservative seal on them. The timing is important to that. It's a very quick process. It's very cost effective to extend the life of that pavement if we come back a year later and do that. So you'll see some work there. Crack sealing and concrete repairs are done mostly in residential areas, a lot of street, too many to mention. You can find out on the website. If you've got questions, let me know. But we've got, I think, $14 million program across the community in 2025. And that's based on, generally, the funding is allocated based on the percentage of streets within each district. Westlink Library, I'm not going to mention anything about because you already heard about that. Books are moving over there. Grand opening is March 24th. We were proud to be a part of that. Moving on to the next one is Police Patrol. Wichita Police Patrol West Substation is under design. We actually expect to open bids for construction in April. We're wrapping up design. I'm assuming everybody's familiar, but it's basically on the northeast corner of the campus of Wichita Northwest High School at Country Acres and 13th Street. If you've had a chance to be out east on East Edgemore, where the new Wichita East Police Substation is, next to what used to be Southeast High School, Wichita District Office, we've got a brand new East Police Substation that is open now. We kind of figured out something that worked pretty well for police, a good template. This West Substation will reflect that pretty closely along with the things that we learned. So we're excited to get that going. Next project is improvements to Maple from 135th to 167th Street, full 2 miles. We'll be reconstructing to either 3 or 5 lanes, drainage improvements, sidewalks, and bicycle facilities. This project is programmed for construction in 2027 to 2028. As you know, there's a lot of development in that area. With the Goddard schools having been there for some time, there's a lot of pedestrian activities. So this is really going to provide a benefit for that area. And this project will be presented at both DAB 4 and 5. That's a dividing line in April. So you get to hear more details about it then. Sorry, Teresa, if you're on the next one. We have, over the last 2 years, has been looking at proposed improvements to the Kellogg and Ridge Road intersection, Eisenhower Airport Parkway. We saw an opportunity for a federal grant that we went after that included a lot of improvements on the airport north campus. Included multimodal accommodations. There is not currently transit service to and from the airport, which we would like to provide at some point. So far, we haven't gotten over the hurdle yet on those federal funds, but we have resubmitted. We did last year, through Senator Moran's office, receive a congressional delegation of $2 million that we're hoping hangs on so that we can move the design forward, the development of a bigger project so that we have a better chance of federal construction funds in the future. As you know, that square that you're on is kind of outdated. It's really hard for us to program those signals. We've done everything that we can to try to improve safety there. It's a high crash area and we just can't seem to gain on it. We really just need to rebuild that entire interchange. So that'll be our goal for the future, and we'll keep working on trying to find funding for that. Second part of the project I mentioned earlier is improvements to 135th Street from Central to 13. As you know, it's the last section of 135th that has not been improved between Kellogg and 21st Street. It will mirror what's been done there with 3 lanes, continuing that bike lane on the west side. That is scheduled to begin construction yet this year, so should see things happening there soon. Listed in the other projects is some freeway projects. We still are keeping an eye on West Kellogg from 111 to out past 135th Street. At one time, we had hopes that looking at federal funding for that section of West Kellogg. Things have kind of changed at the state level with the highway plan. We have that project mostly designed. We're going to try to finish that design so that we'll be shovel ready and have an opportunity for improvements. Development out there is helping our cause. Hopefully that keeps going. Traffic counts go up. We'll continue to look at that for improvements in the future. And then a few kind of citywide regional projects. K96, we've talked about in the past from I-135 to 21st Street. KDOT has that project under design to expand to 6 lanes and rebuild all the interchanges. They've gotten to a point that they don't think they can fund that project in the time frame they thought they had. So we're taking a step back and looking at a phased approach to it, working closely with them, potentially focusing on Woodlawn and Rock interchanges first, but that's probably still several years out before anything happens there. Improvement, the next phase of East Kellogg improvements from K96 east of 159th Street is moving forward. Design is progressing. KDOT expects to start construction late in 2025. That'll continue the freeway expansion through 143rd Street. If you spend much time out east going towards Andover, you know how bad that 143rd Street at-grade intersection is. So that'll provide great separation of the 143rd and 159th. And it will make some improvements to the K96 interchange also for better accessibility. Last 2 projects I'll mention are the work that's going on at the North Junction. I'm sure plenty of you spend time at the North Junction and see all the construction that's going on. The most recently opened up connection for eastbound 235, eastbound 96 has really made a big difference, especially if you travel on 135. Weather kind of slowed things down there, but that project is expected to be completed sometime late next year. It's going to be a huge improvement once all of that work is done there at K96. Last project I've got to mention is the new multimodal facility immediately northwest of the baseball stadium. If you haven't had a chance to be down there, it's really coming together. The walls are being formed up. We expect that work to be done about a year from now. That's going to provide 400 parking places for the area. Our transit operations will move there. The current transit facility at William And Emporia will no longer be there and probably part of all of the biomedical campus. So that is all I have project wise. I'll stop there and see if there's any questions. One last quick thought. Because you'll see it when if you go to the basketball tournament, and you've probably seen it on the news, we are converting some of our one-way streets downtown to two-way. And that will happen, some of those will happen in the next 2 weeks. Emporia, North of Central is happening this week. Topeka between Kellogg and Murdoch will happen next week. So you'll see those, and English between Maine and Emporia. I think it's a good thing. You know, there was a time when those one-way streets worked well, but I think it really helps for a lot of reasons to go to two-way. Market and Maine will also be converted to two-way. We just weren't able to make that timing work before the basketball tournament. That'll probably happen in the next 30 to 60 days. So big changes coming in.
So wait for you guys.
Any questions? Not, right?
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate your presentation and professionalism as always. 3 questions. The grant for the interpretive playground, that was awarded like 3 years ago. Is this still the same grant?
It's my understanding, and I apologize, I don't have the detail. It's my understanding there's still a portion of that grant we haven't actually received.
Okay.
I don't know that it's in jeopardy. There's a lot of things related to grants right now that,
I thought it came from
Not
the
sure.
state. I thought it was a state grant.
well, it is, but some of that still comes through as federal funding.
All right.
I can get you more information.
Well, just if we need to bang on anybody,
Yeah,
happy to.
sure.
And then secondly, you mentioned the asphalt overlay at Tyler from Central to 13th. If I remember correctly, last year or the year before, that was warranting a stoplight at the entrance to Northwest. The traffic had increased enough. Is that still a consideration?
It is. So we're still working with the school district. We have an agreement with them to split the funding. And we don't have that part of it worked out yet. So the traffic signal we think is warranted. It's close enough that we think we can move forward. We're kind of waiting to work with the school on the funding. part.
Editorially, they should have enough money with what we paid them for Northwest High to afford that. I can say that now. My third and final question, I know it's not District 5 specifically, but Hoover Road from 21st to 37th. Is that construction starting this year?
Good question. So Hoover Road from 21st to 29th
29th, okay.
is a section that's in the city. We are wrapping up right-of-way acquisition now, getting closer. I really do think we'll be under construction this year finally. We had a delay in several things for several reasons. We should be under construction yet this fall. That will improve Hoover to 3 lanes, add sidewalks and a multi-use path on the east side. So to that point, then we've got another project we're getting ready to start. If you're familiar with the area, if you get on 29th, there's a path that goes up to K96 interchange now. We're gonna finish that path under K96, connect to the park, and we're actually gonna build a parking area there where the park is at. So hopefully by next spring, summer of 2026, we'll have a path connection from Sedgwick County Park to Christopher Perry Lake Park was how that'll all tie together. And those improvements on Hoover are desperately needed. A lot of traffic that's increased up in that area. We've heard from a lot of people that want to walk and bike through there and you just can't do it with the ditches. So thank you for asking that. That is coming soon.
And I said only 3 questions. I thought of a 4th one. The final art piece at Wichita Waterworks has not been lit yet.
You're correct. So the electrician for that will be here and is out of town, will be here in 2 weeks-ish, sometime in March for the final programming of that and connecting the power. So we first brought it up initially and it hasn't been illuminated since, but we're getting closer.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
On the conversion of two-way to one-way, one-way, two-way streets. Where you put 3 lanes in, one way going each way with the turn lane in the middle, bike lanes on sides or.
No, well, it varies. So here's what I can tell you. Right now in Topeka and Market, there are bike lanes that are going away. They're not getting utilized as much as we thought they might. We see better value in traffic lanes and parking, especially with the multimodal, especially with what's happening down there to provide on-street parking. Main Street will be 2 lanes each way. Market will be 3 lanes, I think. Topeka is gonna be 1 lane each direction with parking. And Emporia, you can see the configuration already. That's mostly 1 lane with parking, so. If you look at those kind of one-way couplets, the way they used to be with Topeka and Emporia, Main and Market, we generally keep the same traffic carrying capacity, but we're especially able to add parking is one of our big goals, so. And I apologize, I don't have all the details, but I was trying to think through my head what those look like, but
That's good. Thank you.
And drought response. Is that for you too?
that is me too,
Okay.
He's the drought guy.
He's a drought.
unfortunately.
When does the new water treatment plant be going?
I will talk about that in just a moment.
Yeah.
You have someone on your district advisory board who's maybe a bigger expert than I am about when that plant comes online. We were just meeting prior to this.
She's there quite a bit, I think. Yeah.
I thought it was the other way around. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're hitting all the district advisory boards this month and in April. I've got staff at 2 other meetings and we want to make sure everybody's aware that we're still in a tough spot here with the drought. I think most of you are aware last fall, we entered into stage 2 of our drought response plan with meant 1-day watering restrictions per week. That has not changed. I've had a lot of calls about the snow. For what it's worth, you know, they talk about the general rule of thumb is you gotta get 10 inches of snow for 1 inch of rain, right? So the snow that we have so far has only amounted to about a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch of rain, which doesn't do us a lot of good. We did have a lot of rain in November, which helped. We had a record November. It brought Cheney up a foot. Anything helps, right? And what that did is help us look that we'll stay in stage 2 a lot longer than we would have been, but we have a ways to go. So I want to talk to everybody about where we're at tonight, where we're headed, what we're doing to look to the future, because we've got some exciting things we're looking at. Just to give you a quick summary of our water sources, Cheney Lake, 20 miles straight west of here, is one of our primary sources of water, surface water. That's where we're being impacted in this long-term drought. One of the challenges with Cheney Lake is it's out of sight and out of mind. Not a lot of people in our community even know where Cheney Lake is at. If you don't see it and you get some rain here, you think, well, hey, we should be okay. We battled this last year with our local meteorologists who would go on TV and say, it's raining, we're good with the drought. We actually sat down with them and said, please stop doing that. They started focusing on Cheney. They went out there and took pictures, they did videos and things, and it started to be really impactful for people to understand this is really where the problem lies. Equisped's well field is northwest of where we're at here. Roughly half of our water comes from there. In spite of our drought, but because of a lot of our efforts to keep that aquifer healthy, it's almost 92% full. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. That's part of our long-term drought resiliency effort and one of the values that we can bring, especially with what the flexibility that our new water treatment plant will bring that we don't have now. I mentioned El Dorado. I want to mention real quick. Everybody asks, why don't you go get water from El Dorado? It seems like an easy deal. We've done multiple studies over the years. There's not that much water available from El Dorado Lake. Water rights is something we could talk about for a long time, but not all water is just available to anybody. So even with the water rights that are available from El Dorado, when we get to a point in a drought, in the later stages of a drought, that we need water from El Dorado, they do not have water available. We would drain that reservoir quickly throughout the rest of that time. So it's just not feasible. We've looked at this from different angles. The watershed that drains into El Dorado is much smaller than Cheney, so it fills up slower. So if you're in a regional drought that's affecting all of this area, there's just not the water available at El Dorado. So we get that question a lot. It's okay. I hear it all the time. But it's not a viable option for us, even though we're willing to look at all the options that we can. Talk about our 2 water treatment sources. Wichita is a regional water provider to 17% of all Kansas. 1 in 6 Kansans get water from us, 500,000 residents. We have 150,000 customers. We also have 11 wholesale customers, including 8 neighboring communities and 3 rural water districts. I've just mentioned real quick, it's been important for the development of our region that we are a regional water provider. There's not a lot of water rights out there for all communities, and if it wasn't for what Wichita provided, some of these communities wouldn't exist. I will tell you where we're gonna help get some relief from a conservation standpoint and water availability standpoint is the City of Valley Center is about to start construction on a new water treatment plant. They're still gonna need some supply from Wichita, but for the most part, they're gonna come off of Wichita because they've got water rights they can use. That's a good thing. City of Derby has pretty considerable untapped water rights. In the next couple of years, they're hoping to also build a plant. They can't self-sustain, but they would be able to have enough water to take care of high demand months, right? That's where we see the biggest challenges during the high demand months, outdoor irrigation. So that is a big deal too. Real bonus to us going forward for long-term drought resiliency. Our current plant has challenges with how much groundwater it can treat. You know, I talked about those 2 main sources. That's a limiting factor that will get better once our new treatment plant is online. We will take ownership of this new plant sometime in the next 30 to 45 days. It's going to take some time before we're up and running, before we're sending water to the system. We're working through some issues now, not issues. We're working through some scenarios, some challenges, finding the best way to be able to bring this new plant online. Absolute worst timing in the history of the world to build a new water treatment plant is in the middle of a drought like this. And I'll tell you why. Our hope had been, and we're still working on it, is to run both plants at the same time. We know our old plant, our current plant can produce water. We know this plant will be able to produce water, but we've got to get our legs underneath us and work through the seasons. And if we have challenges, we could stop production from this plant. The lower demands, because of the drought, because of the water restrictions, are going to cause us a real issue on whether or not we can run both plants at the same time. There has to be a minimum amount of water that goes through each plant. We don't think we're going to have enough to be able to make that happen. Working through that now. We'll get to a point and figure that out, but it's going to take us through most of 2025 to be able to sort that out. The current water treatment plant, we will be going to City Council. March 18th is the plan to, is the proposed right now to discuss a plan for the current water treatment plant. We have multiple options we're going to consider. The one we're looking at is to maintain that plant for emergency purposes for a variety of reasons, but we're still working through some of those details, and we'll have that good discussion with the council here in about 2 or 3 weeks. Talk about Cheney specifically. As of yesterday, the water level is still 7.5 feet below normal pool. I mentioned that we're in stage 2 water restrictions that will remain in place. We expect that to remain in place through all of 2025. And I'll talk in just a little bit about how we go about the 12-month average and why, even if we were to get some rains and it filled up, we're going to remain in stage 2. So there's a large watershed, 600,000 acres that feed this lake. This is really a unique situation that we're in, that over the last 2 years, we're 2 feet below normal precipitation within that basin. That's a huge area, right? United States Geological Survey, they monitor inflow into these reservoirs. They said it's the lowest inflow in almost 60 years, which is basically back when this reservoir was built for the primary purpose of serving water to Wichita. So the upper area of the Nenasko, the North Fork of the Nenasko, no rain, nothing's happening there. Even when rains in November helped, but anytime prior to that, what happens is the initial rains, just all they do is just start to soak in. water table is dropped, you're just not getting anything coming into the lake. So even if we get big spring rains and we start to fill the lake up, it's going to take some time to come back out of this. And I'll talk about that more in just a moment. The chart on the left is 20 of the largest reservoirs in the state. So 2/3 of all Kansans get their water from federal reservoirs in Kansas. What that shows, and it's kind of hard to see, is the percent of sedimentation. One of the other questions I get often is, why don't you dredge Cheney? So you've got a bigger hole in the ground when it rains, and you can fill it up with more water. It makes sense, right? We have had some very proactive and very positive programs in place for many years for watershed protection, working with multiple groups, working with the state to limit sedimentation. Cheney is fourth from the left. It's just over 5% sedimentation currently in the reservoir, which is not much at all. Dredging is a lose-lose proposition. It's expensive. You've got to have a place to take the material. We did a quick estimate. We got to $100 million literally, and only gained an extra 3 months of water supply. That's how expensive and how big of a proposition it is. Not a very good return on investment. It's not going to be something we can do. Don't mind taking a look at it. Appreciate the question. We don't want to miss out on any opportunities, but that's just not going to happen. I showed the picture on the right. There's one silver lining in this drought, and it's the fact that we can go in and make repairs to our dam. That dam that you see, the main dam, now the earthen dam, is almost 2.5 miles long. We haven't had the chance to make repairs for many years. The current water level is about 1 foot below where we need to start repairs. We have a contractor working on it right now, making repairs. It's going to take us probably 6 months to get there. The more they get moving up, even if it starts raining, it helps us out. We do have a separation clause in the contract. If it rains and it fills it up, we are not lowering the reservoir. We will terminate the contract and we will come back to it at a later time. That dam is not in the dire shape of needing to be repaired, but we do need to make repairs. We've had this funding program, that our capital improvement program, we had the plans done, ready to go. Good timing for that, no other reason, but it's good that we're going to get that repair done. We've worked closely with, I just wanted to show this map real quick. We've worked closely with the Kansas Water Office on the governor's drought declaration. Prior to October of last year, this map did not look like this. In fact, what's Reno, Harvey, and Sedgwick counties were, I think, maybe just the orange, not even showing, or it might even have just been a watch. We, again, are in a unique situation in how we receive water from Cheney. The water office came down and took a look at Cheney Reservoir and realized the situation we're in, changed this declaration. The reason why this is important for emergency declaration is because we could be eligible for state and federal funds to help us continue to navigate through this drought. At least we hope. And there's certainly no harm in that. We want everybody to understand the situation that we're in. So we do have a plan in place. A lot of people ask, what are you doing? What is the plan? Coming off the heels of the drought, last drought we had in 2013. If anybody remembers that, that drought was basically eliminated by 2 massive rain events in a 1-week period. It filled the reservoir back up. And I can remember during that time that I think we all had a short memory, and it didn't take long to forget that we'd even been in a drought. That's what we're trying to avoid this time, to make sure we have a different focus going forward. So City Council approved and codified a drought response plan. It's a 4-stage plan. It's meant to take us through an 8-year Dust Bowl type drought. It gets more painful as you move along. This is not meant to stabilize Cheney Reservoir, but it's meant to extend our water supply for as long as we can, keep our community going forward. There are some impacts to businesses along the way, which none of us like, but we've got to keep an eye on not knowing what's going to happen, especially not knowing how often these events might happen. There are some exemptions to this plan that aren't always the most popular. Those businesses that derive their core economic income from water usage are exempt. That includes car washes. I'll just tell you real quick. I have no idea whether so many car washes in this community or others. They do use a recycle filtration system. They couldn't stay in business otherwise. If they had to pay for the amount of water that they use, there's no way they could have a viable business model. The one thing I want to mention too is food bearing gardens are exempt. They can be hand watered. We had a lot of questions about that last fall. And I just want to remind everybody, if you've got a garden, food garden, you can water your garden. So I'll talk a little bit more about this plan. This is kind of hard to see and I apologize, but it's got the 4 stages. Stage 1 is upper left. We activated in January 2023. Each one of these stages is based on a 12-month running average of the capacity of Cheney Reservoir. Stage 1 calls for voluntary conservation from the community, and one of the big things it does is it formally activates an internal conservation plan for the City of Wichita organization. We had done a lot to that point to start looking at the future, looking at landscaping practices, looking at water uses, but in January 2023, we really kicked things in. We have an internal conservation team that's got all representatives from all departments on it. Things like not washing fire trucks, not washing golf carts near as often, going to a drought tolerant landscaping, changing our watering patterns. There's been a lot done on the golf courses for the types of grass to use, non-mobile areas. We're doing everything we can to lead the way. We heard a lot from the public saying, if you're going to put restrictions on us, you better show us what you're going to do first. And we take that seriously. And I get that. We also have the water rebate program that for 2025 is now back in place, providing rebates for water efficient devices. Stage 2, which goes to once a week watering restrictions, was activated on August 5th based on the level of the 12-month running average at Cheney Reservoir. You've heard me talk about that quite a bit. We weren't sure what was going to happen at that point in time, but I'll tell you what, the public really got on board. We didn't know how much we were going to save, where we were going to be. I'll talk about that in a moment. But we really got to a good point. Stage 2 does come with penalties. So if you're watering in quadrants, I'll show you in a minute. First one is a warning. Second is a $50 violation. Third and beyond is $100. We don't have the resources to go out and actively police this. We've got some of our staff watching. We've asked the public, watching while they're out doing other things, construction inspections. The public can report this online. Not everybody was favorable with that. Talking to us about ratting out their neighbors. We're not asking for that, but if you see it, we ask to report it. So we wanted this to be about education. We wanted this to be about collaboration and not be punitive. I will tell you what we have to keep an eye on is stage 3, and the reason why we have to keep pushing hard and working hard going forward. Stage 3, we don't expect to get to in 2025, but if we have another year like we did last year, we could get there. It eliminates all outdoor water. I don't think any of us want to get to that point. Even with the exemptions in place, we will put some businesses out of business. There's zero doubt. If there's landscape companies, nurseries, there's no way they can maintain if we go to stage 3. It's not something we like to do. We have to look to the future. I'm hopeful that we get some kind of rains this year that at least keeps us in stage 2, if nothing else. But we do have other things that we're working on that I want to talk to you about. Probably have seen this when we went into stage 2. We separated in quadrants. This northwest quadrant waters on Monday, northeast on Tuesday, southwest on Wednesday, southeast on Thursday. You cannot water between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. No watering on the weekends. It makes it a lot easier for everybody to keep track of. It makes it a lot easier for people to enforce. To the far east is Andover. Andover are direct customers of ours. They're a part of this too. So when I mentioned the wholesale customers that I talked about, they are required to follow the same plan. We have approved plans from all of them saying what they will do for their water restrictions, and we saw that they saved water also. We were taking a stab in July using a lot of water in a high water month, how much we could save. We were hoping to save 10%. The very first week, we were 35% down on water use, which was good. So people got on board. There were plenty who did not want to get on board. We had a lot of good discussions, and I get that. It's a big change, right? But overall, I think people got on board and really started being a part of this. This is where we're still at. Going forward, we're still this way. Same water restrictions. We had to make a few adjustments operationally. In the northeast part of the community, just quick anecdotal story. There are a lot of irrigation systems. We actually had some pressure issues the very first day that this happened because everybody was running their irrigation system. We made some adjustments and we worked through it. I think it worked fine. Outreach has been a big part, communication with the community. We want to make sure everybody knows where we're at. SaveWichitaWater.com is a great place to go. It's part of our website. It's got a dashboard for Cheney. You probably can't see it, but on the left side, it's got drought update. It's got irrigation education, how best to take care of your yard. We have had K-State and Sedgwick County Extension come in and talk about the best way to water your yard. I can tell you, I've seen it. There are a lot of people that water their yard 7 days a week, some people more than once a day, and it's just not necessary. You do not build a strong root system. I'm not here to educate you about yards, but what happens then in this situation, your yard will go into shock. If you were one of those that watered every single day and all of a sudden we go to 1 day a week, you're gonna have a problem. So we're trying to encourage people, especially going forward, changing the culture, changing the thought process. No matter what happens when we come out of this drought, there's no reason to water your grass 7 days a week. We're trying to keep that to the forefront, keep educating people. So there's information here about lawn care. There's information about a rebate program. Great place to go. So what are we doing going forward? Probably heard talk about our aquifer storage and recovery project, ASR, part of our Equisbeds well field. Very innovative, state-of-the-art project that the main part of it went into place in 2012. It's been a huge investment for the community. What you see on the left is a little hard to see, but that's a Little Ark River. And there's an intake structure. When the river's up, we take water through what's a sedimentation basin. On the right is a surface water treatment plant. We treat it, we inject it back into the aquifer, and we were able to build up credits for additional water use in the late stages of a drought. We have annual appropriations through the state of Kansas, the amount of water we can take out of the aquifer. We're actually building up credits, so at some point in time, if we get in a really bad spot in this drought, we can continue to draw water out of there. What that also does though too, is it keeps that aquifer full and healthy for all users. There's a lot of people that use water from that aquifer. Great project. It's something that's gonna really help us with long-term drought resiliency. I won't spend much time on this because it's kind of some technical details that you won't be able to make out of much anyway, but what I just talked about, when we treat that water and we put it back into the aquifer, we generally do it through injection wells, which is not the most effective way. We've got funding set aside, including some from the Bureau of Reclamation for recharge basins. Big areas, pump the water into, it filters down into the aquifer. It's more effective for keeping the aquifer full. It finds the gaps that an injection well can, really utilizes that recharge to the best extent that we can. We also have a local well field around our current plant that we're upgrading to make sure that we can maximize our water usage. New water treatment plant, construction was substantially completed in 2020 in September of last year. We were getting closer to taking ownership of this plant. If you've noticed, if you've been by on 235, you've seen some water going into the floodway. That's part of the performance testing. It's necessary to make sure that this plant will meet all the requirements, all the specifications, including regulatory requirements that we can run this plant. We've limited the amount of test water. We're still going to need at least several months of doing this same thing. I mentioned before the drought really threw us a loop here on how we can bring this plant online, but we're working on that. We'll get to it after we take ownership, but once we get the permit from KDHE to run the plant, drought is just having a big impact all the way around. Our timing really couldn't be worse, but we'll get this plant online, we'll get it operational, and long-term, it's going to provide so much more flexibility for us. Our current water treatment plant is limited on the amount of groundwater it can treat, maybe up to 45% of our total volume. This plant theoretically can treat 100% groundwater at some point in time when we're up and running. It won't be right away, but down the road, when we're in the same situation, if Cheney is struggling, we can start pulling a lot more of our water rights from the Equisbeds, and this is a real difference maker. It'll take us to the end of 2025 to really be up and operational and running this plant. But we're getting there, so it's exciting. I was just out there this afternoon with Jennifer. We were talking about some things and we're ready to get going. We've got real challenges with staffing, trying to find enough people to run both plants, but I think we're getting there. This is the most important thing I wanted to talk about tonight, these next 2 slides. So looking to the future, what do? So if you've ever heard about reuse, we are hiring a consultant to look at a very in-depth and robust reuse feasibility study. Long and short of it, what you see on this map, that upper left, Cowskin Creek plant is our wastewater treatment plant right down the street here that this pump station pumps to. The very bottom of the page is our main sewer treatment plant, 57th and Hydraulic. If you spend much time in South Wichita, you know when you get to that, right? On the far east is our 4 Mile Creek treatment plant, served all of East Wichita. We took that over from the county at one point. And right in the middle is our water center that treats all of the groundwater contamination from the core area. We have treated effluent, we'll call it effluent, it comes out of those plants, it goes to our creeks and rivers. Up to 30 million gallons a day, we have the water rights to. What we're gonna start looking at is the ability to capture that water and deliver it back to ourselves, to treat it and send it to the system. We can create our own water resource. This is fairly new in most parts of the United States, but it's really taking off. And it's something that we really want to go after and take a look at because this could be a big deal for generations to come. One of the first things that we're going to do is provide the ability for landscape contractors and others to be able to utilize this water, even this spring, fill up their water trucks, be able to keep business going, be able to keep landscaping going without having an impact on our water supply. I'm getting close to wrapping this up. Sorry, I know there's a lot of information. This is hard for you to see, but this is what we call direct potable reuse looks like. On the left would be one of our wastewater treatment plants. To the middle is multiple layers of advanced treatment that it would go through. And on the right is going back to the distribution system. So again, taking the water that we've treated at our wastewater treatment plant, treating it again, it's already been treated once, treating it again through our water treatment plant and sending it to the system. Our average daily demand during non-drought throughout the course of a year is 50 million gallons a day. So if you can imagine, we could deliver back to ourselves more than half of that amount of water every single day, the difference that would make. If we could get to a point of making this work, I'm not so sure that we would ever talk about drought impact again, no matter what happened to Cheney. So there's other options we can look at here. There's indirect potable reuse. We could take a pipeline out to Cheney and keep it full, right? From the sewer treatment plant, send that treated water. The lesser value of that is when Cheney's full, you're not doing anything with that. You're not sitting, it's not going anywhere because you can't gain from that. We do have and are utilizing industrial reuse. Down at the bottom right, where that says Spirit reuse, 385 million gallons per year. We have right now, we provide almost 1 million gallons a day of reuse to Spirit for cooling and production reasons. So good start towards conservation. We can look at more industrial reuse as we do this too. So we're going to look at all the options to all of that 25 to 30 million gallons a day that we're sending down the river to someone else. Last couple of slides, which also talk about our efforts going forward. We've started some really earnest discussions with the Wichita Builders Association, with neighborhood groups, with neighborhood associations, and talking about what we do for legacy landscaping. I'm sure most of you, like me, have a fescue yard, right? We all like fescue yards. Most covenants within the neighborhoods, probably a lot of you live in, or may live in, say that you got to keep your yard a certain level of green, you got to water a certain amount, or you're going to get fined. That's been a big part of what we've been working on since the fall with homeowners associations. Anyway, to the point, we would like to look to the future and find a way that not everybody puts in fescue and get homeowners associations to be okay with that. It takes a lot of water. Covenants for homeowners associations are developed under state law, but that does not mean that they're exempt from local law because they are not. So we spent a lot of time with HOA management, with specific HOAs, letting them know you have to follow the rules. And so I think we got some good feedback. We're hoping to go back out this spring, talk to him again, see if we can convince HOAs to not be so stringent about it, look for a better way to do things. We're gonna be reviewing our landscape ordinance and find ways to do more drought resilient landscaping across the community. That bottom picture shows a lot of developments have got water in them. My brother lives in a huge development, Jacksonville, Florida. Every single property there has reuse for irrigation. They've all got a purple box, purple pipe. They've got a lot of water resources, but they have developed their community that way, that all of the irrigation comes from the ponds within the developments. I think that's something we can start looking at doing here for long term. We look at what other cities are doing. I know you can't read this. Hayes has been dealing with drought for many years. They have some restrictions in place, have had them in place for some time. In Hayes, if you live in Hayes, you can't even take your hose out and wash down your driveway. That's against the law. Makes sense. It's a lot of water. Oklahoma City is doing something I think we need to consider long term, is they have alternate day water that's permanent. And it's easy to enforce. It's easy for people to understand. If you live on the even side of the street, you water on the even days, odd side is odd. I think that's something we need to consider going forward, that we do in Wichita in perpetuity, whether we get any rain again or not. Watering 3 or 4 days a week is all that a yard needs. It's more than enough. It really helps long-term conservation. We will continue to talk about that. My last slide is just wrapping up everything I talked to you about. We're going to stay in stage 2 restrictions. We've got improvements in the well field. The new treatment plant should be fully online by the end of this year. I talked about reuse, which is a deal breaker for all of us, for this community, and one of the biggest things we can do. We're going to continue discussions with WABA, and we're going to develop recommended changes going forward. Thank you for very much. I know there's a lot of information, but because we only had a couple of months of this in the fall, I wanted to be very detailed on talking to people about what we're doing going forward. Happy to answer any questions. Sorry, for those of you who are still awake.
Any questions?
Thank you for taking the time to share it all.
I don't mind. I've found that one of the best things I can do is go out and talk to the public about this and make sure they understand what it is that we're doing. We do have a plan, and we're trying to find a way forward, and I think we're on the right path, so.
Questions from the audience?
One, just clarification, Gary, this is really informative. Private wells, any issues at all with private wells and utilization of private wells in stage 2 or stage 3? I know currently there isn't anything in stage 2, but.
Thank you. I always forget to mention that. Private wells are exempt from all of this. We've had that discussion. We still encourage those on private wells to conserve as much as they can. I'll give you a quick technical answer that you may not want, but I'll tell you real quick anyway. What we would call a local aquifer, it's hydraulically connected to the aqueducts. However, it recharges from the Big Arc River, so it always stays pretty well. We've heard some from people in West Wichita late last year that were starting to have problems with their wells going dry. So, you start to see everything drop, but domestic wells, truth be told, long-term, under normal conditions, we would be better off with more domestic wells. We would lessen the stress on Cheney if more people were willing to put in wells. There may come a time now when you may not get water in your well, but overall, we would take less out of Cheney Reservoir with more wells. So we'd like to see people do the best that they can, but there are no restrictions. The one thing I will say that helps us out from an enforcement standpoint, again, that's not our focus. We do ask people to put a well sign up so that we know.
I'm trying to put together my opposition to the new plants that Evergy wants to build. And one's gonna be in Reno County, one's gonna be in Sumner County. And I understand it's for they will frack gas. And then they will need to cool it, and then they will need, they steam it and then they cool it. It's gonna take a lot of water. How are you talking to Evergy about this?
I'm not.
Is-
But it's a very good question. So I happen to sit on the Kansas Water Authority. And I've been, especially over the last year, a big part of the discussion about the Kansas Water Plan. And what you bring up is one of the subjects that the Water Authority talks about. Kansas Water Office is a big part of that discussion. There's discussion in the state legislature right now about additional funding for the Kansas Water Plan for long-term resiliency, but part of that obviously is conservation too. And I apologize, I don't have a lot of knowledge about how those plants work, but I will tell you, I'm confident at the state level, they're gonna do everything they can to make sure that there's not new industry that's taxing us and adding to our problem. So we, along those same lines, you probably heard a lot about data centers and the importance of data centers across the country. We've looked at a business that was gonna build semiconductors that was gonna come to the Wichita region, and they're high intensity water. And we're looking at them too, to look at recycle, to look at their own type of reuse. And I think that's, everybody's on that same page. I don't know that there's anything established at the state level that regulates that or requires it, but that's a really good question. And I apologize, I don't have more than that, but I know it's a focus at the state level too, so.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't off in left field when I testify on Wednesday, that I don't think it's necessary.
I think it's a good question to ask. It definitely needs to be the forefront. It's one thing if you're saving on one type of energy and having to utilize another resource at the same time, it becomes a problem.
Other questions?
Thank you for the time.
Not, you can hear it. All right, moving to new business. Brad? You're here to, in the Metropolitan Area Planning Department?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening. I'm gonna preemptively bar Brian from asking any questions because he.
Oh, I know.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
He
I
can
know,
have
I
my job.
can't. I'm on MAPC.
No, I'm just kidding.
We will hear this case later.
No, we're here to discuss CUP 2025-00005. This is a request, the applicant is requesting a minor amendment to the Northbridge Village CUP, which is also DP 280. The subject site is 4.26 acres in size and is zoned LC limited commercial. It's generally located 1 mile west of Northbridge Road and within 1/2 mile north of West 37th Street North. For this request, the applicant is requesting actually 3 items. One, to add a use to this parcel, which would be the warehouse self-service storage. To exclude the parcel from the architectural controls that are set forth in the CUP. And then also, we do have supplementary use regulations for warehouse self-storage in the LC zoning district, and they are asking to waive number 17, which I can get to a little bit. So just a little bit of more information about those 3 requests. Currently, parcel 4 is permitted all uses within the GO district, general office district, along with several other uses that are in the report. Now, warehouse self-service storage is usually allowed in the GO through a conditional use. And amending the CUP is basically acting in lieu of conditional use because the public hearing process is the same. And then as far as the architectural controls, parcel 4 has restrictions. It says that all buildings in the CUP shall share uniform architectural structure, or I'm sorry, character, color, and predominant exterior building materials. Walls and roofs must have predominantly earth tone colors with vivid colors limited to incidental accents. and so on. So the applicant is requesting to be allowed to construct the development with non-traditional metal with a more modern feel. Now, that's what was given to me as what their request was. I don't know if the applicant or agent is here today. But we can probably get into more of what that means when we go to the planning commission, if they're not here tonight. And then they have submitted some renderings. I don't know if you can scroll down to some of the renderings that they have, Teresa. I think the first thing is gonna be the site plan, which is that right there, and then down below, that should be some rendering. One maybe, yeah, so this is what they're looking like apparently, or the design, kind of a corrugated metal, but it's horizontal instead of kind of the vertical, with some darker round door. Not necessarily typical of what you normally see with self-service stores. I think there might be some more if you scroll down a little bit. Yeah. Thank the cards too. So, and then lastly, the waiver of the special use regulation number 17. That does require a resident manager to be on site, and then they would also be responsible for maintaining the operation of the facility. We've all seen these resident managers at self-service warehouse storage units. I think a lot of people are getting away from some of that stuff, and so they're asking to waive that. And then just some other things about the CUPs that are required: landscaping, screening, signage, and parking are all going to be per the UZC, the Unified Zoning Code. If we can go to the zoning map, which is moving down from that one. You can see that it's zoned LC, and it's kind of surrounded by much of the same community unit plan. So let's see here, properties to the north are within the CUP, and part of them are undeveloped, and then others are developed with medical services. Property to the east, again in the same CUP, developed with medical services. Properties to the south are zoned LC, and they're in community unit plan 250. From looking at the zoning or the aerial map, if you'll scroll up now, Teresa, it looked like it was undeveloped, but when I went to go out there and take pictures, it's very much being developed with apartment complexes. So when I wrote the report, I didn't know that. And then property to the west is zoned SF5. It's also part of the CUP 280, and it serves as reserve D, and it's used as a floodway with ponds. This property was rezoned in 2004 from SF20 to LC and SF5, and the CUP was established. And then in 2009, the property was platted as the Northridge Village Edition. And then concurrently with this application, a vacation application was submitted to vacate an unused utility easement that bisects the lot, and then also reduces the platted building setback along West Village Circle, which is right there above the lot. As far as public services go, West Village Circle is paved 2-lane local road with sidewalks on the north side, and it leads obviously to North Ridge Road, which is a paved 4-lane arterial road. Wichita Transit does not serve the area, but municipal water and sewer services are available. And you can see by this future growth map that Teresa's gotten us to, this proposed amendment is in conformance with the community investments plan. The future growth map shows this this area as appropriate for residential and employment mix. And you can see the definition of what that means in the report, but basically we believe that the use of this warehouse would be appropriate for this other site, tucked away in that little corner. And the supplementary use regulations and the conditions of approval are designed to mitigate any significant detriments to neighboring properties. So based on all of that, staff does recommend that the amendment to CUP DP 280 be approved. As well as the waiver of the supplementary use regulation number 17. These are all subject to conditions that are listed in the staff report. These are based off of the golden factors, and to this point, we have received no public comment on this. With that, let's take a look at site plans. I always forget that. So this is looking south into the site from that Westridge Circle. And then you're looking west into the site from a new drive that's going into the apartment complex from the south. So you can see that there's already been some activity going on there. Then down here, looking north, you can see the undeveloped portion across the street. If you scroll down, I've got it there. You can see the medical services kind of northeast, and then looking east away from the site, more medical services, southeast, away from parcel 1 and parcel 8, new apartment complexes. This is looking west, kind of away from the community unit plan towards the reserve that's out there in the floodways. And then I think we have a couple more. Looks like that. Maybe. So with that, I can stand for any questions.
Committee members, yes.
I just need some clarity. This is off of Ridge Road, just right by where the Quick Trip is in the
Correct.
general area.
Yeah, if you took a left there.
Okay, to go left
Yeah.
or to go west.
Yes,
Off
yeah.
of Ridge Road, okay. And there are medical offices there that are in that area. There are dental offices. There's a medical office that's back in there. There's actually, as you said, some new construction that's happening in that area. There's a roundabout,
Correct,
correct?
yes.
Okay. And what you're asking us to vote on is that we would eliminate partial 4 so that a self-storage facility could go in that area, and that they would not have to abide by the regulations that the current buildings had as far as the look at the building was concerned, correct?
Correct. We're not asking to eliminate parcel 4, we're asking to amend.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
we're changing something that original plot was developed under.
Correct.
Correct? So that a self-storage area can go in. So it's the self-storage that's asking us to make this change.
Correct.
Okay. And that turnabout is gonna be able to take care of the traffic that we think is gonna happen there?
I don't think that it will be too big of an issue because they've got this whole north property line that kind of goes along. There's 2 roundabouts, one on the west and one in the middle. And so they've kind of got that whole property line to kind of play with driveways into their property.
Okay,
But that will be something that the MABCD, the Building Construction Department, will have to work with them on as they're getting their site plan configured.
and now we're there are some apartments that are building in that area too, so we're adding to the volume that's in that area? Is that a correct assumption? Am I
Yeah,
saying
so
that
the-
correctly?
The roundabout in the middle is kind of where I was talking about. They've kind of included a new drive coming down that east property line. And so, it would be prudent to think that there would be more traffic coming down West Village Circle and down into that drive. I don't know that adding self-service storage will produce a whole lot more traffic, but everything would also be paved. So there wouldn't be any like dust kicked up or anything like that as well.
But we're really talking about changing the complexion of the
Mhm.
area in itself. Okay. We did receive a letter on this, didn't we?
That is from Teresa, you did send us a letter from one of the business owners, is that correct?
Okay. All right, I was just making sure we were talking about the same area and the same parcel that was there.
Yeah, as staff, myself, I haven't received anything, so I don't know, Teresa, if you could forward that. to
We
me as
did,
well, so.
we did receive a letter.
Yeah.
I was just making sure it was the
Sure.
same, we were talking about the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? From the public, any questions? All right, well, we have a recommendation before us. Is there a motion to accept that recommendation? Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the recommended action, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
So noted. Okay. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
Any other business before our district committee tonight? Okay, anything?
Please try to come to the breakfast.
All right.
See you, friends.
No.
And we are in.